What's up, peers, and welcome to Bitcoin to the Max here on the World Crypto Network. Today, we continue with the discussion of evolution of money. And yesterday, we talked a lot about financial self-sovereignty that was not part of this graphic here by Murad. But rather next up on the line was here greater custodial solutions, institutionalization, financialization, and regulatory clarity. Now, this is interesting, and I really wanted to preface this point by emphasizing the importance of financial self-sovereignty in Bitcoin. This is what Bitcoin is truly all about. Run your own full node, control your own keys, use Bitcoin. That is how it is supposed to be used. And what we are going to talk about today is a deviation from that base philosophy and base understanding of the security model of Bitcoin. Because the interesting aspect with Bitcoin as a self-sovereign sound money is that each individual is fully incentivized to take care of his own value and wealth and money as much or not if he likes. And that means that the amount of security greatly depends on individual valuation of security and ease of use. Because inherently, any hyper-secure system will be less usable. If it were usable by the rightful owner, then it is much more usable for a hacker. So that means that higher security always comes at a cost. Now, for some individuals, it might make sense to pool their capital and put it in a collected and custodial fund, and they can thus also pool their resources to pay for top-notch security. So maybe if 100 people come together and they all pitch in just a little bit, they can, in aggregate, buy a lot more security than each individual could buy for him or herself. This is the scaling effect, right, of having a lot of fixed cost reduced per unit itself. And here this means that we can get more security when specialization is applied, but also it creates a honeypot. It gives a target to any hacker of not just one person, but the funds of 100. And they are, of course, thus 100 times as likely, probably even more, to go after this money because it just is such a big pool of wealth. And hacking this system, which will never be perfect, as no system ever is rather unlikely. There is no true deviation from this path of creating a honeypot in a custodial service, because per definition, it is centralizing lots of funds in one hand. And this relieves and relinquishes your financial self-sovereignty. And therefore, it does not give you full control over your money. You cannot necessarily verify that these custodians are doing a good job and that they are inherently at your best interest. And even if they were, there are a lot of hackers out there that might overtake these custodians and achieve access to your coins. And there is the fundamental rule of your keys, your Bitcoins, not your keys, not your Bitcoins. And that is just the truth of consensus. That's what is written on every full node, is that you can only have access to these funds if you cryptographically hold these keys. And if you do not hold these keys, if you give these keys away, you give away the keys to your Bitcoin, and they no longer are yours at that point. So giving your funds over to a custodian, like a centralized exchange or like a so-called Bitcoin bank, although it might be maybe cost-effective, it does create a honeypot, and it takes away your financial control. So it's not all negative. It can help here in securing your Bitcoin more cost-effectively, but there are trade-offs. And the interesting thing is that you do not have to use a custodial service. The standard in Bitcoin is your keys, your Bitcoin. And you have to deviate from that path and, so to speak, opt in to a less secure system, which might give you more convenience, arguably a bit more security. And therefore, it is your choice, and your voluntary choice especially. But be responsible for the choices that you take. And know that once Bitcoin are quote-unquote stolen with leaking of the private keys, you have given up the access, the sole access rights to these Bitcoin according to consensus rules, and they will be lost forever. Because Bitcoin doesn't give a shit. If you lose your keys, they're not your Bitcoin. And thus be wary of custodial solutions, as they, historically speaking, oftentimes have been fraudulent and have lost your funds, which is not what Bitcoin is all about. Thank you, Piers, for joining me here on the World Crypto Network for the show Bitcoin to the Max. And this show is especially brought to you by you, amazing peers out there who are supporters of the World Crypto Network. Not just being active in the comment section and then tweeting this out and liking it and subscribing, but especially for handing over the custody over some of your Satoshis. So thank you very much for visiting our page at patreon.com/WCN and teleco.in/HillebrandMax and receive early access to these videos as soon as they are recorded. Thank you very much for joining me again, and see you on the next show. Bye-bye.